So what's up, champ?
Nothing, man. I'm just out here at the On It headquarters in Austin, Texas, training like a damn madman and having fun.
It's fun watching you do that. Does it ever get weird? Is it still weird to hear yourself called champ?
Yeah, it's weird because, I've been training my whole life to be the best in the world at something. When I was a kid, I thought I would be in the NFL. To be honest, I still think I can compete in the NFL. I still think I can play to this day. Like
I think you picked the right sport.
Yeah, I picked the right sport because the career span of an NFL player is 5 to 6 years, and some guys have been blessed with the new, different training techniques and people training smarter to actually make it 10 years, 12 years. But there's nothing in me that says I can't compete in the NFL.
Yeah.
Being a strong safety, knocking the fucking helmet off. I feel like I still can do that to this day. So I've just been a lifelong athlete. I didn't accomplish it in high school. I was a state champion. I placed as high as, third in nationals, but I never was that number one guy. In college, I trained to be the number one guy. I do feel like, my senior year, nobody outworked me. I was the best guy in the weight, but I didn't put it on when it counted in the NCAAs. So once again, I was left with that void. I was trying to make an Olympic team. I was on an Olympic ladder.
And for those of you who don't know Tyron's history, he's talking about wrestling.
Talking about wrestling, guys. Talking about wrestling. So in the sport of wrestling, I'd never achieved being the best. And it was just something in me that I felt like I was going to be great in something. And I didn't know if I was going to do mixed martial arts. To be honest, I was wrestling. I was coaching, and I was doing a few amateur fights. And more importantly than that, I know you know my buddy Eve Edwards very well.
Yep.
I was a trainer. So I started as a training partner for Eve Edwards, Thiago Alves, Dean Thomas, Jorge Masvidal, all these guys at American Top Team. They would fly me in. I was a damn bag of bones. Go spar with this, go spar with that guy. I would come in the morning, and they would bring me back at night for a second sparring session. And just because of my conditioning, my wrestling mentality, and I was just really durable, and they would just beat on me, and that's what I was for a long, long time. And then
the forging of a champion.
Man, the forging of a champion.
Through the fire.
Yeah. It was a humility of just knowing that, it's going to be your time at some point, but right now it's not your time.
Yeah.
And I always had the honesty. So when I got to the point where I was a world champion, I had foresaw that so many years in advance. It wasn't a surprise. It was an expectation. I knew it would happen. And, just the way the sport has changed, you know what I'm talking about. It's more politics and it's more entertainment than it is sport. So it kind of took away I thought I would be screaming, yelling, being so happy, walking around the house with the belt on, going to the grocery store. If I show you where my belts are at right now, in my office, in like a all-weather room underneath, dusty as hell. They're not up on some mantle because at the end of the day, I've been a champion. I just finally got the fight that was a world championship fight and won it.
Yeah. It's interesting. One thing that I always talk about is, from my perspective, people always ask, did you ever think that On It would be this big? And it's the same question, really that you get. Do you ever think you'd be a champion? And it's really a trick question because I don't think anybody can become anything if they didn't believe that they could become that thing. Like it's never going to be like surprise, I'm CEO of this company. Oh, surprise, I'm a champion. Like unless you believe it first, you're not going to take the steps to get there. You're not going to fight through the pain and the blood and the resistance that's going to be on the path unless you believe that that's ultimately where you're headed.
Well, you definitely got to believe, and for me, all my coaches believed before I did. My family, everyone saw greatness in me. They saw the champion in me. They saw me compared what I was as a wrestler, as a grappler, my mentality, the way I trained, the speed I possess, the explosion, the power, the dedication, and the way that, I'm more of a cerebral fighter than people recognize. I really break my opponents down to a molecule. I know them so well. Sometimes I become them. Sometimes I take away every advantage or every gift that they have, and I leave them in the octagon naked, and then they have to deal with me the whole fight. And when people watch me fight, they don't recognize what's going on. Stephen Thompson didn't look the same way against me as he did against everybody else. Neither did Paul Daly. Neither did Robbie Lawler. Neither did Carlos Condit. These are all great guys that we talk about, but recognize what I did to them in that fight. I stripped them of their gifts. So with that said, I never imagined that this sport, I always imagined being a champ. This sport's too hard to be in it and not want to be the champ. But I never imagined this sport getting to where it was at. And as it got to where it's at right now, me being a champion at that current time, injury could have stopped me. Sure. Not making the proper money could have stopped me. Losing motivation because it wasn't really the sport, the Bushido spirit that I originally got into MMA for. It become more politics, more entertainment. At any point, I could have, with no embarrassment, no shame, I could have walked away and I could have done something in business. I could have done something as an entrepreneur. I could have started, an agency where I was representing athletes. I could have done any of those things. But I think the more important thing is I chose to stick it out. 18 months on the fucking sideline. I waited for my time. When I got it, I seized the moment.
Yeah. You mentioned it a couple times, the politics and obviously the sport's given you a lot, but, I think there's clearly in your mind a way that it could be even better. A sport that you love could be done better. And it's no offense to the UFC. They got their own thing going on. But if you were able to be put in, czar position and emperor position over the UFC, and now there's investors and all kinds of people, but let's just assume that you were able to really control and dictate policy. What would that organization look and feel like? Like, how would you make some changes to make it better for the fighters, better for the fans across the board?
Man, it's cool you asked me that because I have a really clear vision on what I would do. I would incorporate a draft. I don't want to say this and offend anyone, but some fighters don't deserve to be in the UFC. And you in the NBA, it's the best of the best. Not the best in high school, not a person that got off the couch, said, hey, guess what? I'm going to fight a professional fight today at this bar. You have to actually go to college in many of these sports, and you have to actually be the best of the best. You have to be drafted. Someone has to pick you and say you're going to be on this team. Then you got to make the tryout team or the practice team, and then you got to actually get activated and go play in a game. We don't have that. Think about the athletes. I think an athlete should look a certain way. He should train a certain way. And because you're durable and you can take punches and you bleed a lot and you'll never give up, that shouldn't be a professional athlete. I think some of the other regional leagues that we have now.
So what you're saying is some fighters like that person you just described, that avatar, would be someone that the UFC keeps on just to make other people look better, right? That would
not
be the
only
idea.
that, but sometimes they're matched up against a similar opponent that's the same thing, and it becomes fight of the night. And we love it. And it was, these guys are crazy. This dude was almost dead. This guy was almost dead. How many 10-day notice basketball games do you see?
Yeah.
Or hey, you're going to do the PGA World Tours. Guess what? You got 3 days notice. Right. I need you to just jump up and get ready. We're the only sport that does that. And with that said, it paints a bad picture. Some people still see our sport as, the fight that's taking place in the bar, and we just beating the hell out of each other. And there's a couple rules, but not many rules. I think that our sport will be respected more. Don't cut anyone from the UFC. The people that are in the UFC currently, they stay in the UFC, but future guys that are signed, I think we should utilize the regional leagues as a draft 2-3 times a year. Looking at Titan, looking at LFA, looking at ONE FC, looking at Bellator, looking at all these different fight promotion, and we evaluate the champions of those divisions first. We look at the talent that's up and coming, and we see what fighters are the fighters that we're going to bring into the UFC. And maybe those guys go into a tough show, maybe those guys are brought right in. But I think if you do that, now we solidify our sport more. Yeah. Don't just change a uniform and put us in a fight kit and think that makes us, makes us solidify. I think that if you want to be side by side with other professional sports, that's important.
It seems like a big problem in that is all of the organizations are so key on these exclusive contracts and locking people into one organization and really limiting the options. If it was more, boxing has this a little bit where there's title belts, from different governing bodies and organizations, WBC, WBO, whatever all of these different things are. But then the fighters all have the chance to make matchups and make fights, and then pay-per-views are being broadcast based upon the fight and the promotion that was there. So it's almost, then it becomes really genuinely like a league.
Yeah.
Like a full league across the board, and the best fights are being made at equitable prices. And it's just, right now, it's more like these little organizations that are really antagonistic and competitive with each other. They're trying to lock everybody down. Whereas the best thing for the sport and the fans would certainly be, fights get to be made amongst the best, and then the title belts carry, across the board, and promotions get to promote those certain events.
You know, and just for you guys on live, because I didn't say this before, I'm here in the Onnit Studios in Austin, Texas. My homie Aubrey, we just dropping knowledge, man. We're talking about the sport. We're talking about what we think is good about it, what we think can change, and just, you know, just a mindset from a champion standpoint, which could be different than a different fighter. So that's what we're doing. But just to piggyback on what you said, not only should the exclusive contracts of only being able to fight for certain organization, I think that could change. I'm not 100% against, you know, you in the UFC. I think it's some merit and value to being a UFC fighter.
Or make it all, like, it's either, it can either be one organization or no organizations, right? It's just like, I feel like it all needs to be.
You got the NFL, you got the CFL, you got the arena.
Yeah.
But I think that at a certain point, UFC is like the NFL. And I think some of the other organizations like the Bellator, maybe the CFL, and then some of these other ones is more like the indoor arena football. And I think outside of college, drawing people from that, you know, every fighter doesn't go to college in MMA. It's so many different backgrounds of fighters. And that leads me to my next point, the marketing. We can't just pour $10 million a fighting Conor McGregor. What if Conor goes in boxing and never comes back? What if Conor, you know, fails a drug test? What if he gets injured to the point where he can't compete again?
Yeah, disproportionate allocation of promotional
100%
attention.
You have to build the prospect. So say, I'm gonna just use round numbers. Say it's $10 million in UFC 205 for Conor or Jose Aldo or something that's a big fight that they know that this $10 million I'm putting in is gonna come back tenfold because it's gonna be such a huge fight. I know we're gonna partner and brand it. I know Conor's gonna come to the press conference and he's going to make you want to watch. And not only that, he's going to bring a whole country of Ireland with him.
Yeah.
That's something that they've tested. It's worked 3 or 4 times. It makes sense to continue to do that. But also, what about the top 5 guys? Those guys should be marketed in a certain way. The number 1 contender, he should always be marketed as he has a chance to win this fight. It should never be Ronda Rousey's coming back. And it's such a big push on her. And she's fighting against a challenger who's actually a horrible matchup for her. Yeah. She was really put in the back wing as Ronda was overly marketed.
Yeah, Joe was highly critical of that. Joe Rogan was.
And it's a bad look. It's a bad precedence that's set on that. So I think that the top 5 should be marketed. It says $10 million for that guy. Ronda, right now, Conor's that guy. You know, we can say what we want, but he's that guy. He's the biggest superstar in our sport. He deserves a $10 million push. He deserves the purses.
So it's not necessarily less for Conor. It's just more spread around for everybody.
It's the mindset of hedging your bet. You can't put all your ducks in 2 or 3 athletes because tell me the superstars in MMA right now. Conor's on a break for right now. He might be boxing. He just had a kid. John Jones is not able to compete at the moment. He's going to compete in July. Ronda Rousey, we don't know what her future is. Who's a big star now?
Yeah, it gets really kind of interesting in there. You have to list one at that point. You have to list 10, right? You have to list like the other champions that are there, yourself and Cody and
but there's no big
people.
Superstars.
No.
You know, we're seeing them put some money into Cody. You know, he's a good-looking kid. He's got swag. You know, he got the tat thing going on. He's always fresh. He got the suit game on lock. He looks a certain way, and he fights hard.
Yeah.
You know, they putting a little money in him. We've seen, you know, the kind of wild card bet where they doing a Paige Van Zandt and the Sage Northcutt. We saw that. But what about the guys from the Tough Show should be promoted a certain way? The up-and-coming fighter should be promoted a certain way. You know, just the gangster fighter like Bobby Green or something like that should be promoted away. And then you got like, you know, Chad Skelly and Jason Knight, they fought. One of those guys said, hey, it's only, I'm the only redneck in the UFC, and it's only room for one in this trailer park that we call, you know, the Ultimate Fighting Championship. That NASCAR WWE crowd should be marketed a certain way. There's so many different demographics in mixed martial arts. It would be silly not to capture them all. And I feel like myself personally, where the UFC can market me more is I've already made the alignment and connections and networks with people in the hip-hop industry, other professional athletes. I think piggybacking on that because that demographic is open. When Floyd Mayweather retired, the boxing demographic is up for the taking, and we have not capitalized on that. And I think no other fighter on the roster right now has by themselves via the Champ Life. Make sure you guys check that out too, Champ Life and Champ Camp. You know, doing that, doing a podcast, doing movies, doing television shows, doing commercials, and just really collaborating with guys like Snoop Dogg, Wiz Khalifa, Ludacris, all these different professional athletes from so many different sports. Let's bring them up. They love MMA. You know, I went to the Billboard Awards, and Kevin Hart's coming up to me and Drake's coming up to me, not because I'm saying hi to them. Oh, what's up, man? They know us from fighting, and we just don't recognize how many people are watching MMA right now. And I think the UFC should really capitalize on that.
Well, it seems like with someone like WME behind the UFC now, that should be a layup, right? I mean, this should be something that's really easy. There should be placements and collaborations and all of these things that are in the works. But it seems
I think that's going to happen, though.
Yeah.
Not to cut you off, but I went to the athletes retreat, which we had, a few days ago. I really didn't want to go. I'm gonna be honest. I was like, man, I've been traveling so much. I want to be at home. And, just with that said, I went out there with low expectation of what to expect. And bringing in speakers like Kobe Bryant, who's a genius when it comes down to business. I didn't know that about him. Michael Strahan, who really told us how to be yourself and make yourself a brand. And then guys like Brandon Marshall, who was currently playing for the Giants and still, an analyst on television. So it just showed us a different look. I think the direction they're going, if it's any resemblance of what we saw at this retreat, they treated us like top of the line. They brought Snoop Dogg in to perform for us. They really didn't hold any punches back, and
that's
really
awesome.
Just threw the kitchen sink. So if that's an example of how they're going to treat us moving forward, giving us a proper PR, the proper access, aligning us, with different, whether it's in fashion, whether it's in music, whether it's in, if it's a female in cosmetic, even the LGBT community, just every angle, just really, attacking it, then I think we will see the sport go in a different direction.
Yeah. And it's interesting that for us inside who know the sport so well, it's crazy to imagine that there's those people out there who look at the sport a totally different way. Like I ran into somebody the other day. She was actually interviewing for a job here, and she goes, "Oh, I didn't know that MMA was a real sport up until a week ago." And I go, "What? What? I mean, to me, that was unfathomable."
She's not alone.
That was unfathomable, but she just equated it to WWE or something else
wrestling. You doing that wrestling stuff?
And I guess maybe some of it is just mainstream coverage, like mainstream news and these mainstream channels, talk shows and things haven't really fully gotten behind it, except for a few moments with maybe a few moments with Ronda, a few moments with Conor. But it's time for the world to stop treating this like some dark alley, dark corner shit and realize that this is one of the coolest applications of a chess match between two athletes that you could possibly create. Yeah, all right, we can create a bouncing ball in a 10-foot hoop, or you can be on skates on a frozen piece of ice and try to shoot it in nets, or you can just have two people who look across from each other and try to figure out how to dominate the other person. Yeah, I mean, that's like how cool is that? And it's strange that people still look at it in a different way. And look at, you end a basketball game and you're as likely to hate that person forever as when you started, but you end a fight and almost every single time it's nothing but love at the end between the fighters. Like, this is not the thing. I don't like the hug after
the fight, though. I'm good on that. You've been sweating. I don't know what your hygiene level is. I might have hit you and you're bleeding. I can't. I don't know if you pissed before right before you walked out and wash your hands. I think we should dap it out. I think we should show the
You just like them at the end of your fist at all times.
Hey, boom, good fight, man. Good fight. Let's bow to each other. But at the end of the day, when you, especially if it's somebody that's been talking mad trash, though. If you've been talking mad trash, and then, how did I flip this camera? I didn't know I did that. If it was mad trash, and then you want to now hug me, no, brother, we ain't hugging. Ain't no window love.
Well, speaking of hugging, Damian Maia's going to try and hug you.
Well, Damian Maia going to get slapped. He's trying to hug me.
I mean, he's going to try and sneak up under there. He's going to start wrapping his legs around you.
I joke about Damian Maia, the backpack thing. I'm not going to ease up on that because people love it. It's funny as hell, too. The thing about Damian Maia is I think people, well, just stop him from taking me down and fucking knock him out. He ain't got no hands. But you don't understand how he's coming at you. Very unorthodox, no setups. He'll take a couple punches to get close to you, but all he needs to do is get those sticky fingers on you. Mm-hmm. He has big hands. He has a lot of static strength. He's been in those positions over and over again. So with that said, I think more respect needs to be shown to us what he does and his ability to get on the backs of the best fighters in the world.
Yeah.
I never underestimate a fighter. I never underprepare. I never think I got it in the bag. And I've also fought that type of fighter. Even Jake Shields. Jake Shields dominated him for 3 rounds. They did a 5-round fight. I would get the first 2 rounds to Damian Maia. There was 3 rounds where he dominated Damian Maia.
Yeah.
So who you think I might bring in for my training camp? Someone that's dominated my opponent and say he felt like this in the situation. He came from this angle. And I also fought Jake Shields, who attempted to take me down 18 times and came up short 18 times. So it's going to be very hard for Damian Maia to take me down, one, to get to his only position of dominance, which is on the ground. And also, you know, one of his Altos teammates, Andre Galvao, who at the time when I fought him was the best grappler in the world. He would take anybody's back, submit him, and he was that guy. It was pictures in my gym about him. They were reading books. I said, take that shit down.
Yeah.
I got to fight this dude. I don't want to look at him every day in the gym. And he came in to take me down, and I made him pay every time. And then eventually I knocked him out and got him out there. 2 different fighters, 2 different styles. The thing that worked for me best is when I took it to him. I took it to Galvao. I waited on Jake Shields, and we saw the result. He came out with the victory. So I think I'll go with the first way.
And that's been something that, you know, you've taken some criticism for in the last fight with Wonder Boy, was just waiting too much. Because it seemed like when you did go, you know, everybody saw, oh, when he goes, he's dominant.
Yeah.
You know, so what was that? I mean, you've probably talked that thing to death, you know.
No, I actually really haven't, to be honest. You know, my college coach told me one time, Tyron, every time you shoot, you take the guy down. You need to shoot more. You know, every time, you know, there's 90% chance if you actually go for a shot, you take the guy down. I said, I know, because I'm setting it up. I know when my shots are there.
Yeah.
I know when I have it. And I don't want to waste energy, and I don't want to waste attempts and expose my body and put myself at risk. When I know I got a shot and I go for it, I commit to it. You can see I'm confident in it, and the ass is going down. And Wonder Boy, I can see he was waiting on me to come in, and I was waiting on him to come in. And we both are counter fighters. And you also have to recognize that the one thing that haven't changed in the sport, you got to be the champion. You want my belt? I didn't wait on Robbie Lawler. He had something I wanted, and I went after him, and I took the belt from him.
Yep.
If Stephen Thompson wanted my belt, he had to be more offensive. He had to come towards me. I don't have to weigh all the risks. I don't have to step into his game plan, which in the past, the guys that were not patient, you know, you look at Robert Whitaker, you look at Johnny Hendricks, you look at even Roy McDonald, guys either don't have the patience and just say, F it, I'm going in, and what happens, they get knocked out. The kid punches hard on his way back. Or they never find a solution to the Rubik's Cube. You see a very confused Roy McDonald. You see somebody that just, how do I get to this guy? So though my moments came later in the round, I had to be patient. I didn't want to. I wanted to just take his damn head off a lot of times. And I had to really precisely choose when I went. And when I went, yeah, you're right. I did knock him down. It did look very imposing. And I had more of those moments in the fight than he did. I had more moments where the referee was getting close thinking about stopping the fight. I knocked him down 4 times in the first fight. I knocked him down once in the second fight. And I imposed the only damage that the referee might have wanted to get involved with. So I know who I am. I know what I did in that fight. I know what I needed to do. And at the end of the day, the goal is to defend until you can't do it anymore.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And anybody from the outside is operating on totally limited data.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? Like it's really actually kind of absurd for anybody to comment, because not only are you there receiving all of the actual data from what your opponent is doing, what his strategy is, but you also have your entire data set of what your skill set is and everything. For somebody else to imagine that they're you, and then imagine that they're you perceiving him and decide that they know better what you should do, it's really actually absurd. But I think we all fall into that trap, and it's perhaps part of the fantasy of being a fan. You know, you want to put yourself in these situations and imagine if you were in that situation with these skills. And, you know, it's an indulgence that a lot of people make, but really ultimately it's a little bit silly.
Yeah, and it's silly from a standpoint of our fighter fans, they have one fight style they want to see. You kicking the H out of me and me kicking the H out of you. That's all they want to see. Yeah. They want to see blood. They want to see a back and forth war. Sometimes it's not going to be that war. Sometimes I'm just about to dominate you. It's not going to be fight night. I was in fight night in New York, but I told Dan I don't never want to be in fight night. I want to be whooping my opponent, and I want him not to have answers for what I'm doing, and that's the way I see it. And also, for me to sit here and say that everything I wanted to do, my game plan was 100% executed, and basically I made no mistakes, and that's how I planned it to go, I would be lying to you, brother. Yeah. There were things that I wanted to do. There were positions that I didn't maximize. There were opportunities that were there that I didn't take, and my coaches are honest with me, and they went back in the back and said, you could have lost today. It was close. He could have walked away with your belt. Now, we blessed that one of the two of the judges saw the fight for what it was, but you're capable of more. You were prepared for more. You were in the best shape, and there was opportunities where you could have, seized a moment. So as champion, I think it's a good thing that you go out there and beat such a dominant striker. And it's not the first dominant striker. I beat the best brawler in the division, Robbie Lawler. I beat the most technical striker in the division, Carlos Condit. And I beat the most craftiest or creative striker in Stephen Thompson. And how many moments I outbrawled the brawler, I outstruck Carlos Condit, and his coach said, no fighter wants to strike with Carlos. He said that. And I said, I'm begging to differ, and I'll show you when we fight.
I'm your Huckleberry.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, you know what? You said that? Let's see. I'm ready to go. And I think there's something to be said about that. And, I don't get the credit for it, and I didn't get into this game for credit, though. I get into this game to be the best in the world, the best welterweight that's ever fought in the UFC. And, I'm 5 victories away from being that.
Yeah. And you said, you're talking about credit and you're talking about, what other people think. That's something that every champ has to deal with, and deal with it. Everybody has their own methods and their own ways. And, what are your thoughts on, on how you deal with that commentary, how you let it, whether you let it affect you, how you deal with it. And then, I know we just shot a video about this. It's dope. It's going to be coming out. But, just for the people listening here, how do you handle it? And what advice would you give people who, have to deal with it in their own way, on their own little micro scale? Because
it's funny. I deal with this all the time. I used to pick Friday, and it used to be Troll Smash Friday from like 8 to 9 p.m. Anybody who said something, I would give it to them. I would smash them. I would go back. I would get personal. Then I would block them. I'd get the last say. And it felt so good. But I was so childish for doing that. And I stopped doing it. And I've had talks with other fighters. John Jones is represented by the same management team I'm represented by. And I say, John, why do you care? You're the most relevant fighter in our sport right now. You're the best fighter. Why do you give a hell what a media or what a fighter or what a fan thinks about you? You are the best fighter in the world. And I think the message I would give to anyone, just in general on social media, if you don't know who you are, the problem is your self-identity. You have to know who you are. I know who I am. I know what I fight for. I know why I'm in this sport. And I know what I'm going to do in this sport. So no one can tell me how to get there, especially if they don't know where I came from. How are you going to tell me how to get to the end if you don't know where I started at? You don't know my ambition. You don't know my passion. One time Dana White was on the phone with me and said, Tyron, man, you would be a superstar if you was more like Conor McGregor. Fight anybody. He'll fight anybody anytime. He get with the fans and don't bring up these sensitive issues. And I said, that ain't my goal. My goal ain't to be the most infamous. My goal ain't to be the highest paid UFC fighter. Granted, I do want to be paid, what I'm worth. But at the end of the day, my goal is to be the best fighter ever to fucking fight in the UFC in welterweight division. My goal is to be someone that came in this sport with integrity, that stood by what the hell he said from the beginning since Strikeforce, and someone can actually go and look at an interview. Now, granted, I might not have dropped the bomb in Strikeforce. I might not have been as, animated, but I was still really saying the same thing. I want to fight Jake Shields because he's the best. I want to fight Nick Diaz because he's the best. I want to fight George St. Pierre because he's the best. And when I get to the point where I'm the best, I'll fight anybody. Yeah. And that's staying true. I'm really the only guy outside of Demetrius Johnson that really will fight anybody. And we hear Conor McGregor fight anybody. Why? How Conor McGregor hasn't signed a contract to fight me? He's been given an opportunity. Nate Diaz has been given an opportunity. Nick Diaz has been given an opportunity. George St. Pierre has been given an opportunity. On the surface and in the media, everybody say they will fight anybody anytime. Ask those guys. You guys, ask these guys, why haven't they fought me? Why haven't they signed a contract?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the thing. We want to portray this image like I'm that dude. But I'm really that dude, and nobody wants to step up to the plate and take the fight. So I'm forced to abide by the old rules. Fight the number one contender, win so many fights, and now you deserve a super fight. And that's a silly way of thinking. I think that if you know who you are and you're okay looking in the mirror, and even if you want to put on an act, you want to put on a little, a little entertainment, and it's your alter ego just for the fight. Your family needs to know who you are. They need to know this is just to boost up the fight. There's just entertainment. If you can live with that, there's nothing someone can say on social media that should offend you, that should make you mad, and that should either make you second guess what you're doing, feel bad, and God forbid go out there and try to change your fight style to appease them and take the L and set yourself way back.
Yeah, I mean, to sum up, pretty easy. Know who you are and don't take it personal.
Know who you are and don't take it personal.
Yeah.
And if you got a plan, stay on the course. Don't let someone that's on the internet
Yeah.
if they were doing what they, like you just told me your schedule is so crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got a deadline coming up. So everything that you were supposed to do in June, you got to cram in here. Anything that's not on the priority list, you got to push to July. You got to finish this deal up, right?
Yep.
Do you have time to go on the internet? And do you have time to go on the internet and worry about somebody else's life and tell them how to do what they're supposed to do better? You don't.
No.
People that are successful, they're busy doing what they're doing. You just saw what we shot today.
Yeah.
We shot 3 or 4 days in one day. I don't have time to get on the internet and hate on somebody that, oh, Tyron Woodley, he did that technique wrong. Oh, he wasn't even, I know he only did that for 20 seconds. Oh my God, look at that shirt. He looked like he got a little chub on the side. Like somebody will always have something to say, whether you're doing great or bad things.
Well, and even when they're giving you compliments, they don't really know either.
They don't know.
You know, and that was
know.
one thing, you know, when I first came into the public eye and I finally had my first haters and I was like, what the hell is this? It felt terrible.
Yeah.
And I went to my friend Bodie Miller, who was an Olympic skier, world champion, and he actually had the distinction of being like the most hated athlete, even more hated than after OJ did the car chase.
Yeah.
Like as far
Sometimes
as
you want to just go ahead and let it go, right?
he was the most hated person ever. And I asked him, I was like, Bodie, man, how did you deal with it? He's like, listen, nobody knows what you did, why you did it, how you did it, other than you.
Yeah,
you're the
right.
only one who really knows. So if they're pumping your tires and saying, oh, great job, that was amazing, like they don't really know. And if they're saying, you suck, that was horrible, they don't really know. So only
But you're
you
not
can
doing
know.
it for them
Yeah,
either.
only you could know if you've done your best. And you do your best, and that's all you can do. And you don't let other people, you know, their opinion of you, the way they look at you, be a mirror for how you see yourself. Know who you are, and don't look around you like you're in this hall of mirrors, like that fucking Bruce Lee movie where he's looking around in all the mirrors and everybody's eyes are those mirrors, and you're trying to watch it and see, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah.
You'll make yourself dizzy. You'll go insane. And it literally becomes that classic hall of mirrors where you're completely lost. Know who you are and dispel all those other mirrors.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? It's something you brought up earlier, and you guys will see this video later. Start talking about when you do it for love.
Yeah.
Love can also be replaced with passion.
Yep.
If you like, one thing I like about what I do is I'll finish doing something. I'm like, damn, I'm getting paid for this. I'm on Fox and I'm just talking with the boys and I'm talking fights, and you know I might be shooting shit a little bit, and I get done. I'm like, I'm getting paid for this. I just did I did like 10 training sessions today, and I'm like, man, this is just what I like to do. I like training more than I like fighting. Sometimes I don't even like fighting. I'm just good at it because I'm competitive, and everything, adversity, wrestling, all the things in life just makes me so happen to be good components to be a great fighter. But if you passionate about something and you are gifted, God gave you gifts to be good at that thing, you're going to do it. It's not going to be hard for you. Now, if you operating in a field that you want to do, hey, I want to be a singer because I saw Beyonce, and man, it makes it look so fun. We're in an era where social media is the internet mill. We see what everybody's doing, and we want to be what they are, and we want their money, we want their success. We have the opportunity to see so much now that we don't want to look down deep in ourselves and see, what's my purpose?
Yeah.
Why am I on this earth? What gifts do I have that I can do better than anybody else? I'm not going to prepare my own taxes. I'm not gifted to do that. Yeah, now I can do it, but guess what? It's going to take me so much more time. The chances of me making error are very high, and I am not trying to go to jail.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that find your lane, sprint in that damn lane, and when you're passionate about it and you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, you'll be less likely to allow somebody to hate on you or to make you feel less of a person or to make you change what you're doing.
And one thing too is a lot of people don't know what their lane is.
You're right.
And, you know, so spending some time to figure that out. But if you haven't figured it out, pick a lane and sprint as if it was your lane.
Yes.
Because the practice of sprinting, the practice of becoming great, even if it's not ultimately what you're going to do, that is an art form in itself.
That's
like become great at whatever, at anything. Yeah. You know, when I've hired 140 people here in this company, and that's my active employee count. And what I look for more than anything is, you know, even if I'm hiring them for a different job, have you been great at anything? Have you shown that you're capable of being great at something? Because if you're capable of being great at something, you can be capable of being great at this, because that's a skill in and of itself. So don't worry yourself, is this the perfect thing? Just practice going all out, all in, 100%, and that'll serve you. And then that might help you uncover what that is, because you'll see it to the end and you'll know, man, I gave this thing 100. This was the outcome. Let me try a different lane and see what my 100 does in that lane.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good
just
thing.
to backtrack a little bit for the live and the video and this people, just to kind of, you know, so you guys can get me and Aubrey's relationship. I'm at a point in my life and my career where I only want to be aligned with people I believe in. You know what I mean? I'm not hurting for money. I don't need to just sign up with any I've been with supplement companies I didn't believe in, and I've been with companies that I was just cashing a check. And I reached out to these guys because I was at a point where I went 2 years with no supplements. I know you guys see the way I'm built, the way I'm shredded. Some people might even think I'm on PDs. But to be honest, I called Aubrey and I was like, hey, man, I haven't taken supplements in 2 years. I was just trying to eat clean, organic, healthy. And it's getting to the point where I'm 35 years old and it's not enough anymore. And I would say I would sign with another company. I probably would still consume and buy Honest supplements. And that sounds funny, but I say, you know what? I'm going to make the investment. I made the call. Yeah. I flew myself down here, and I wanted to come and see more about this company. I wanted to actually come in here and see where the mindset to build this come from, and why did you design on it, and where did the ideology come from. And I want to see the training environment. I want to see what these supplements do. And before I even committed or we did this deal, you said, I want you to try them first. Mm-hmm. And I want you to see if you like them. And I want you to see if you feel the difference in it than anything else. And I think that's the organic relationship that you should always have. Now, when you're an up-and-coming fighter, it's tough. You got bills to pay. You might...
Condom Depot.
Yeah,
nobody likes condoms, but people have to rep Condom Depot.
You might do Condom Depot. You might do such and such supplements. But at the level that
what was the weirdest sponsor you ever had?
The weirdest sponsor that I ever had, let me see. That's a good point. I have been picky. I had the opportunity for Condom Depot, and I did
Condom Depot wanted that big across your back of your shorts with the big O right over your asshole.
Oh, I take that back. This is the weirdest sponsor that I had, and I like the brand. It was a company called Dude Wipes.
Dude Wipes, I know Dude Wipes.
And I reached out to those guys. And I brought them into the MMA game. Uh-huh. I saw them on the internet. I'm like, man, you know what? Nobody knows about them. If I put this logo on my butt, people are going to go nuts. They're going to make every single comment you can. And I did it against Roy McDonald. I brought them into the MMA game. I was the first fighter to ever sponsor. Since then, I've helped them, consult on other athletes. Should you sign this guy, what he's worth, things of that nature. And when I put that on my butt at the weigh-in, it was the #1 trending thing on Twitter. So just to have that mindset, I haven't really signed with companies that it's like, okay, this don't go with my brand.
Sure.
So I've been blessed to at least been able to filter that way. But I would have to say Dude Wipes and maybe Full Tip Poker back in the old days.
Yeah.
It was paying so much money. I don't even know how to play blackjack in these deals, but they were paying me so much money in Strikeforce. I had a patch everywhere. I had a hat, armpit, Achilles,
flash tats.
Yeah, everything. So, sure.
Well, one thing that's consistent with both of those is it's just you taking the initiative.
Yeah.
You seeing what you want and going after it. Yeah. And that's, I think so many times we get stuck in this victim role where we're waiting for something to happen for us, waiting for opportunity to present itself and be like a moving animated GIF where it's flashing here like opportunity. Yeah, that's not the way the world. Awesome. That's not the way the world works. This isn't a video game where the thing you're supposed to pay attention to lights up.
Yeah.
You got to go out, scan, seek. Trust your instincts, trust your intellect. Yeah. Go out there, find what you want, and manifest.
And you
got
to trust the supplement these days, because I went from 2 years of no supplementation to basically deciding I wanted to consume supplements again, and then just so happened that when I decided that, what came on board? USADA. And how many people do you think, if I flag for something, Tyron been on that shit since Strikeforce. I knew it. I saw his belly poking out right here, and everybody would love to tag me with that just because of the way I'm built. But at the end of the day, I've never believed in the light switch. Everything is always hard work with me. And I was so stubborn for those 2 years. I'm like, I wanted to know that I can do it without it. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, you can, but it comes a point when you're competing at that level and you cross-training so much, you might need a little bit extra. And I wanted to be with something, one, because I'm lactose intolerant. Mm-hmm. And if I pump dairy, it would be scary in this office. I would light everybody up. So I needed something that was going to be organic. I needed something that was going to be, not have gluten, not have dairy, and I had more options with On It to do that. And I'm like, you know what? I feel safe. I know you told me I didn't have to, but I sent all these supplements to USADA. I had them test them, make sure I was good, because when you're a world champion, you make a way different amount of money than when you're not. So the last thing I want to do is go out there, feel like I'm putting something safe into my body, and then go and compete and flag and get whether 6 months, 8 months.
Just watch out for those gas station dick pills,
Hey,
Tyron.
man, hey.
those will get you.
Hey, watch out for those babies.
I mean, the honest stuff's clean, but those gas station dick pills might work, but you don't know why they're going to work. Yeah, man, I appreciate that, and I think that's the way we try to develop all our relationships.
Yeah.
I'm in the same position. Like, we have access to all of the fighters, really, with a single phone call. I can get anybody's number, talk with them, but I want relationships with people who are pushing out a similar ethos, willing to be in touch with what they're putting in their body and just try to become the best. I mean, that's what On It's about. It doesn't matter. I don't know if you saw him in there today. He was in there kind of the same time as you. We have a guy, Gordon, in there. He's maybe 400 pounds. And then a couple of weeks ago, for the first time in his life, he was able to bend down and touch the ground, right? Like, making improvements in his mobility. Hitting the steel mace, hitting the ropes. And this is, On It is not just for champs like you. It's for everybody. It's anybody who wants to take themselves from one level and bring it to the next level. And we're just trying to provide the tools
my weight
to do
cuts are starting to get harder, man, as I get older. I used to be able to just shed the stuff off. And I remember in New York, when I fought Steven, that was the hardest weight cut. I never complained. I never talk. I really have no sympathy for any person that's missing weight. I'm going to just tell you, because my weight cuts are hard. And just eating properly, supplementing properly, I can honestly say my next weight cut was a little bit better. Robbie was okay because I was so pumped up and motivated for that fight. I was working out so hard. I was sweating a lot more. But go ahead and fight November, December in New York, where it's cold, when you don't have the greatest access facilities and you have double the amount of media, and now you got to work out and cut weight with no energy. So, fighting in those winter months, I think is real important to notice that, identify that, tighten up your diet, and it don't help to be on some good supplements.
What's next beyond this, beyond what you've already established in the sport? I mean, if you could call in something else and manifest it, what else would you bring into your life here?
To be honest, I was talking to Brandon Marshall, football player. He did a speech at the retreat. And one thing that I really was feeling, because I feel the same way, my final destination is not MMA. It's not even my purpose in life. It's just a vehicle to get me to my next deal. My purpose in life is to be a motivational speaker, to be an author. I have 3 books in my head that I haven't put to paper yet. I think it's time now to start scribbling a little bit on those. Also, I want to open up the nonprofit. Before I opened up my gym, ATT Evolution, the goal and the mindset was a nonprofit to take kids off the street. Martial arts is a very affordable thing to train. You can't really just throw anybody in tennis, golf. Those things are expensive. Any extreme sports or horseback riding, it takes a lot of money to start those things. And I think the discipline you learn in martial arts, whatever form it is, it translates into life skills. And I feel like I always didn't have that positive person in my life to help me not to be in gangs, not to be a knucklehead, not to get in the trouble that I got into. So I want to do that. And the business mindset that I have now, since I've owned a profit gym and I've went through the bumps and I've forked over $500,000 in mistakes, now I can open up that nonprofit center, and I can be confident in business that I won't do something stupid. If I close that baby down, where do I put those kids back? On the street. If I close my gym down now, they're going to go down the street and go to another gym. So I think doing those things, obviously becoming more full-time as an analyst, I would actually like to analyze other sports. I don't want to be locked into just MMA. I've done stuff with MLB before on Fox. I've done football. Now I want to be a little bit more versatile in that aspect. And acting is next for me. I want to be an action actor. I think that I take it serious, the same mindset that I use for training. I try to perfect that craft. And in the next few years, you'll see me doing more movies, a lot more acting coaching, and then, transitioning. So when I exit MMA, I'm already have my foot in like 4 or 5 things.
Well, you've already, as we said before, you've already shown that you can be great at one thing, probably a couple things, but for sure in the MMA side, proven that unequivocally to the whole world. And so I have no doubt you'll prove it in everything else you try, my friend.
My man.
For sure. Everybody, follow this man, listen to his podcast, check out the Champ Life. Where else should people check you out?
Yeah, you guys can. My social media handles are easy. It's at T Woodley with 3 O's on all handles: IG, Snap, Twitter, Facebook. You can just search by name. Definitely check out my vlogs, man, because you get the uncut raw. Sometimes you get embedded and we see all these other things. You get the filter that the UFC feels like using at the time, and it's really universal. Everybody get the same filter. So Champ Life, Champ Camp on YouTube. Also, you can check out my podcast, The Morning Wood Show with These Nuts. We're going to record one tonight, and we'll talk about the retreat. We also talk about my experience here on it. So make sure you guys check that out. And that's about it, man.
Hell yeah. It's been good having you out here, man.
Man, it's been awesome.
Sure. Much love, everybody. See you next time. Peace.